Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple, to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us as right now we present. We get to talk to one of my all-time favorite people here on Positive Talk Radio. Her name is Randi-Lee Bowslaugh, and she is, let's see. Let's talk. You're an author, you're a podcaster, you're a mother, you're not a grandmother. I thought
Yes, I
Oh,
am.
jeez. I said that's not possible.
Yes, he's already 3.
Oh, my goodness gracious. You must have had your children young.
Yes, but my husband had his even younger. So
Oh, this is by way of daddy's offspring.
yes, yeah. I just never usually say stepdaughter or regular kid. I always just say, "Oh, just my kids."
Well, no, actually, I think it's better for you not to say stepdaughter because it gives them a perception of themselves that isn't really good because
Yeah,
they're not a
they don't fit.
they're your daughter, for heaven's sakes.
Exactly. And so, yeah, she had my grandbaby 3 years ago now, and Grammy's his favorite.
What? Now I know what it's like to be a grandparent, but I'm a little older than you, so I've got. Apparently, I now have 3.
Oh my goodness. See, mine's only just 3 years. I don't have 3 of them.
Well, I've got one that's 5, and that's a natural one, and I've got 2 by marriage,
Okay.
and that
Wow.
marriage happened 2 weeks ago. So,
Oh, well,
um,
congratulations.
yes. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And one of our favorite people on has dropped by. Her name is Dr. Marnie, and
Oh,
2
yes.
of my favorite people, Kevin and thank you. Thank
Thanks.
you,
Yeah,
Dr.
Dr.
Marnie.
Marnie's been on my show too.
Also, then she knows how good you are.
She does, yes.
And so she can give us a review of you if she like.
As long as
And
it's all good things.
of course it'll be all good things. And by the way, you just passed a milestone.
I did. I just posted the 150th episode of the Right or Die Show.
Good for you. And that's so now you've been posting one a week?
Yeah, at the beginning, I was doing 2 a week because I had the time. And then I had to start working on a job. So then I had to go down to 1 a week. But now everything in my life is sort of like I'm used to having that other job and everything. So instead of going back to 2 a week, I'm actually going to just do more than 1 show.
Oh, so is this a grand premiere moment? Do we get to find out what that show is going to be?
It is. I have not announced it yet. Well, that's not true. I think did 1 TikTok announcing it. But officially, you are the first podcast host that I get to tell. I'm so excited that it's you.
Well, congratulations. We are very excited about that. And what's the name of the new podcast?
Our neurodiverse world.
I can't even pronounce that. How do you my neurodiverse world?
Yes, our neurodiverse world.
Oh, very, very cool. And Dr. Marnie is responding back. Congratulate. Oh, thank you for the marriage thing. And Randy, congratulations on your success on Right or Die.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so what's the new one going to be about?
So I'm going to be obviously interviewing other people because I love doing that, chit-chatting with everyone across the world. But we're going to be focusing instead of mental health, which Right or Die Show does, on neurodiversities. So things like autism, ADHD, OCD, learning disabilities, et cetera, et cetera. There's a wide umbrella of different neurodiversities. And so having them come on the show, talk about what it means to them and how they view themselves as being amazing and awesome, because we all are, and just bringing some more awareness around something that's not talked about very often.
And I'd like to go through that a little bit because one of them I don't know what it means, what it is. OCD, what is that?
Obsessive compulsive disorder.
And what does that mean?
So Actually, I was just doing recording an interview earlier today with somebody that was describing his OCD, which is kind of ironic. So he was explaining, and I didn't know this before, but there are different types of it, which I mean, most things have different types. I just had never heard it before. So the one that we typically know about is the one where somebody is maybe constantly hand washing, or they have to say flick the light switch X amount of times before they can move on with their day. And it's something in their brain that's telling them they have to do these things in order to move on. But then he was explaining to me that for him, it is linked to his Tourette syndrome because it is, and I'm trying very hard to paraphrase what he said, but eventually you can watch his episode on my show. And he was saying that it his brain is telling him that he needs to do these things, and it's basically coming up with a story in his head that he needs to like do these little movements. For him, it's these little movements that he has to do um in order to move on. So there's, I guess, a big array, and it's so cool that I get to learn these other things because I always thought OCD was more that constant hand washing, flicking light switch, counting your steps kind of thing. So it's so cool that I got to learn a little bit more.
Now, these these problems that are being driven by your brain, by the configuration of your brain, is that what it is?
That that was my understanding, that, it's their brain telling them to do those things. From other people that I've interviewed who their OCD was more, it was how many times I had to step in and out of, I believe it was the bathtub. They had to step in and out a certain number of times, or there was this major anxiety that something bad was going to happen if they didn't do that first.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
That's so you're gonna get in the bathtub, then you get out of the bathtub, then you get in the and you have to do it so many times before you can actually take a bath?
I think his was coming out of the bath, but yeah, basically.
And so he had to go step out, step back in, step out, step back,
Mhm.
and until his and at what point is it that the brain then says, "Okay, you're good. That's it. We don't need to do more."
I don't have that answer because 'cause I'm not a doctor, but just like I said, from interviewing these other people, that's how I've learned it, and they had a specific number that meant it was fine to move on.
You know, because I mentioned that I've got 3
Mhm.
grandchildren now, 2 by my son got married, and the one that's a natural one, she has she's on the spectrum. Now she's 5, but they
Mhm.
don't really know what being on the spectrum when you're 5 actually means yet. Do you know from your experience, and I know you're not a doctor, and so I won't ask you to give me a clinical diagnosis, but do you know when someone who has been diagnosed as being on the spectrum, when the issues that they have become apparent of how they are reacting to things? Is it like 5? Is it 10? Is it when is it?
So it's gonna vary with each person. And you said it was a granddaughter?
Granddaughter, yes, she's
Yeah.
5.
So from what I've lived and what I've researched, is that girls present very differently than boys, which is why the rate of diagnosis of autism is so much higher in boys than it is in girls. Because girls like to mimic their surroundings more. And when you see a female being very quiet, sticking to herself, not really interacting with everybody else, that seemed as normal or typical for a girl because they want them to be quiet, but that's not what it is. It's that it's not understanding the social, um, like how to socially communicate, and that's why they're kind of isolating themselves. Whereas boys, they're rambunctious, they're loud. Right, I'm going with completely typical. And so that and the research on autism when it first started way back when was only done on boys. So for the longest time, everything was only boys get autism, girls don't. And so girls are often diagnosed much later. So my youngest, um, he was diagnosed at 8, and I know I say he, but it's because he just came out a couple of years ago. So he was female at the time, and so they were seeing that um quietness or lack of interaction with other people as sort of a normal thing because, oh, you're female, that's fine, you're not loud and rambunctious. Whereas finally when it got to age 8 and I had to actually get the teacher to write a letter to the psychologist explaining, they are not, it's not that they're being quiet or not wanting to interact. They're literally not being able to understand how they should interact. And it was finally apparent to the psychologist that it was something more than just being a shy little girl.
And your son is 8 now?
No, sorry, he was 8 when he got diagnosed. He's 16 now.
Oh, and is he can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
I wrote a whole book about him. Of course.
I well, good. And the name of that book is
A Mother's Truth.
And the reason that I want to talk to you about it is because most people in this country, can't say most people, but there are large swaths of people in this country who do not understand what that is, how it presents itself, how it impacts the child. And some of them will actually be saying that it's parents indoctrinating the kid to do these things. And I'd like to shed a little bit of light on that if we could, because I think that it's doing a lot of children harm. Do you think that too?
I totally agree. When there is lack of understanding, you're going to make the parents feel like they are bad, like they're bad parents, and then they're not going to do what's best for their kid by getting them the interventions that they need. And instead, a lot of times I used to hear this growing up. So I was diagnosed finally 2 years ago. So in my 30s. And it made my whole life kind of make sense. Finally, I got it. But when I was little and my mom would say to people, I need help. I don't know what to do with her. When she has these big meltdowns, I don't know what to do. And I remember people telling my mom, she's just spoiled. You're spoiling her too much. You need to be harder on her. And that wasn't the case. So then I'd have these meltdowns and my mom would put me in my room and like shut the door and hold it because that's what she was told to do because it was simply a behavioral issue. But it wasn't. It was an issue of me not understanding my surroundings and being overwhelmed with so much stimulation all at once, whether that was the words or the TV or, too bright of lights, like everything all at once was too much and I could not process it. And my mom asking for help and just she's spoiled. And even as a parent, my kid, I was like, something is going on. And it was just, no, again, you have to be harder as a parent. That doesn't work. And I would tell people, he's not having a meltdown because I told him no. He's having a meltdown because I have no idea why. And it turned out it was an overstimulation issue. So for instance, if we would go to say like Walmart or something, and there was just too many people around, there would be a meltdown. And it had nothing to do with me saying, no, you can't have that toy, because I told him no all the time. But it was something else. And so when we tell parents that it's not the kid, that it's you and your parenting style, we take it to heart and go, okay, what do I need to do then to make them better? And it's not an intervention. It's me being a harder parent when that's not the case.
So there's a lot of guilt that then goes to the parents because people are telling them you did something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when I told my mom that I finally got the diagnosis, she goes, I told them you weren't spoiled. Because she held that guilt for 30 years.
It is just amazing what we do to each other. So when your son was 8 and he came to you and he said what?
I'm not sure where you're going with the question. Give me a little more.
Well, because you said that he was diagnosed at 8.
Yes.
And that but was it an obvious thing? Was it subtle? What was
Oh,
it?
my husband and I, we knew something was different. We knew nothing about autism up till that point. Um, they were telling us at one point it was ADHD. He tried ADHD medication. It made it so much worse. Then they said it was ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, which is basically they won't listen to people in charge. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really make fit either, but you're the doctor, right? Then they were saying it's sensory processing disorder. And they're giving us all of these terms before just saying, you know what? All of these together kind of make autism. So finally we got to that point, and it really was that social interaction piece that was missing to have that diagnosis, because that's a major part of it is the social interaction, whether that's communication socially or understanding the social situations, understanding the emotional side of the there's a lot that goes into social.
Boy, you have studied a lot. Of course, you've had to because you've got
I've tried.
you want to learn what's going on with your child, and when you have a child that is I don't even know how to put it. Where when you what do you call a child that was born female and then decides that they were
Trans.
actually a male?
Trans.
Okay, and when did that come to uh, present itself for your son?
So he came out in the summer before grade 8, and he's in grade 11 right now. So you could do the math.
Yeah, so 3 years ago, basically.
Yep, yep. And actually, it's a hilarious story. So he's having a bath. I am on the other side of my house. My house is very long. He starts screaming bloody murder for me. I'm thinking something's wrong. Maybe he cut himself shaving. I don't know. So I'm running, avoiding all of my dogs, trying not to slip. And I open the door. I go, what? And he's just chilling in the tub. He goes, Mom, I'm a boy. Okay. He goes, yeah, I just wanted you to know. I go, okay, can we talk about this when you're not in the tub? Yep. Okay, cool. Like, yeah, like I really thought something was wrong. And meanwhile, it's just like, oh, I just want to tell you this.
Can I ask a question that just popped into my head that I don't?
Sure. Always.
If he knew that he was a boy, then did he know that he was missing something?
Um, I guess I don't really know how it works. And I'll be totally honest. When and I've asked him oodles of questions, and I've asked other people I know that are trans questions, because I'm not trying to be mean about it, but I'm trying to wrap my head around it where I don't, because I myself don't say I feel like a female, because it's hard for me to wrap my head around that. I just know I'm female because I am. So I've asked my kid, how do you know that? And he's tried to explain it, but again, it's just my head won't wrap around it. But honestly, it doesn't matter if I can wrap my head around it.
Well, that's true.
Right? And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have, is that we want to wrap our heads around it, but do we really need to? It's still my kid. I still love him. I don't care. It doesn't change anything. I mean, changes one thing. He changed his name. And I say this very upsettingly because I worked so hard to find his name. But he said when he has a kid, if he has a female kid, he'll use the name. So I said, okay, fine. Deal.
And his name now is?
Levin.
Oh, did he have a hand in picking that name?
He single-handedly picked that name. I did not have a male name when I gave birth. I could only give birth to a female because I only had a female name.
Well, first of all, I wish Levin a lot of success in his life, and to really be to live a happy life. That's the main thing, and we all are stereotypical in one way or another. As an example, I'm known as a short, fat white guy, and that's but that's different than someone that has got those issues that they're going to have to deal with because of the stereotypical attitude about people, and how you're supposed to be versus how you are. And has he run into problems with that, especially in high school, or is in today? Is it more acceptable in school than it used to be?
So I definitely think it's more acceptable than it used to be because a bunch of his friends are all kind of in that community. Um, so it's a lot more acceptable. I mean, when I was in school and high school was only early 2000s, so not that long ago in all reality. Um, and we had, I think, one gay student in the whole of the school. Um, and I didn't see him being bullied. I saw him having, an okay time. I don't know though. He wasn't really in my group. But like that's it. We only had one in the whole of the school. And now when because so my older one, the one that has the baby, she just graduated two years ago, and she even had a bunch of friends, all that you were either trans or queer or gay, lesbian, whatever. So and her school was much smaller than mine. So it must be, I'm assuming based on statistically more people coming out than back then, that it must be more um common or more acceptable now than it used to be.
Well, and I can tell you, I'm a little older than you, and so I went to high school in the '70s,
There you
and
go.
in the '70s there were no gay people.
There you go. So from the 70s to the early 2000s, we got one, and from the early 2000s to the late 2010s, it was a lot more.
Now that I've said that, that in the '70s we didn't have any gay people in school, that is not true. What we had were people in the closet that were scared to come out
Yeah.
because of society at that time.
Yeah. Well, and same with me. Like later as an adult, I found out that one of the people that my um high school best friend dated ended up actually being gay. So, they like you said, they were in the closet. I think less people, at least in where I am, right? Like I know there's definitely going to be places around the world, even in Canada, where they're still in the closet. Um, but it's becoming slowly, I think, easier for them, at least, like I said, in my experience here where I live.
I am a firm believer in that everybody should be who they are and should be allowed to be who they are.
As
And
long as you're not hurting anyone else.
as long as you're not hurting anybody else. And the other thing is that if you are, as an example, if you are a gay man and you end up, because of societal pressure, you end up getting married to, and then you have a couple of kids, and then at one point in time you have the epiphany, which they everybody does at one point in, what is my life here, why am I here, what am I supposed to do, and who am I really? And when you have that conversation with yourself, and then you're affecting your wife, because that changes, your kids, that changes, so you're
Yeah.
affecting a lot of people in a very negative way, because who they thought you were, you're not, and you never were who they thought you were. But it
Yeah.
would be better if you were able to do that from the beginning, don't you think?
Definitely. Actually, as you were saying that, it made me think of, I don't know if you've ever watched this show, but I loved it. 911. Have you ever watched that
Occasionally, not very often.
one? Okay, but like the female cop and her, I guess, ex, that's what happened. They had kids together, whatever, and then he came out. And it was this whole, like, in season 1, it was this whole thing. And yeah, it would just be so much nicer if we could just accept people how they are right from the beginning and not make them hide it.
Yeah, and understand that it has nothing to do with you, by the way, an individual, that it has nothing to do with anybody else, who your son loves, how he chooses to love them, and what he does with his life, as long as you said it, as long as he's not hurting anyone. And
Exactly.
so it's none of anybody else's business.
That's
Um,
right.
but we take it upon ourselves to make it our business. And
Mhm.
I wish people would just knock that stuff off. But I
Right.
really appreciate you with the books you've written, talking about your brother, talking about your son. Are all of your books based upon life experience that you're having?
Not all of them because I have done a few kids books and stuff, but for the most part, yeah, like 90%.
Well, even kids' books, you could be manufacturing that from a memory that you had when you were a kid.
Oh, 100%. That's why it's like 90% because the one kids book, the Christmas one, it it's about a little kid that couldn't fall asleep, so Santa had to come in a different way. Totally happened. Just not necessarily the way the book describes it, but totally happened. So, yeah, it's mostly manufactured. I mean, my collection of scary stories, I don't think any of that's happened. Like, I've been camping, but I definitely didn't have a monster grab me or anything.
Well, that's good news.
Yes, yeah.
That's good news. I wanted to ask you and get back to autism again,
Mhm.
because my 5-year-old granddaughter has autism.
Yeah.
She's on the spectrum. They don't know how much or how it's going to present itself over time. But one of the things that I'm told is fairly common is that she has, at 5, still has got bathroom issues.
Yep, that's very common. So, mine, he potty trained pretty easily. Um, but the issues were not necessarily going to the bathroom. It was bathroom procedures, let's say. The steps that you should do to be clean after you go to the bathroom.
Ah,
Yes, and it took a very long time for that part to kind of be absorbed and understood and done.
well, see, in her case, she appears to be afraid of the toilet.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, that I've heard that before, and actually, my grandson, he's not on the spectrum, but I got him this little mini potty to use, and he was absolutely frightened of the thing, and it looked exactly like the big potty, and he had no problem. He wanted to go on the big potty. So, I mean, maybe if she had a little potty, or if she has a little potty and got a big potty, right? Like, just it's these trial and error things. And actually, I wrote a book about that.
And the name of that book is.
Um, what is that one called? I think it's just called, yeah, it's just called Using the Bathroom.
Oh, okay.
So I've written so far 3 social stories. So social stories are little stories that are often used for kids on the spectrum. And because they go step by step through the procedure of whatever topic the book is about, because it helps them relate it back to themselves. And so because of bathroom issues, right? I was like, I wish I would have had this back then. So I wrote the book, when you go to the bathroom, you turn on the light, you shut the door, you pull your pants and underwear down, like step by step. And then afterwards, you wash your hands, you turn off the light. We're still working on
And
that whole light thing.
yeah, I would be less concerned about the light thing rather than the cleanliness, because that's next to godliness.
Well, and this is why you take it, like I said, step by step, and you have to really appreciate those small wins. Right? Like if they're going to the bathroom, woohoo! Next step, cleanliness. Woohoo! Next step, turning the light off. Woohoo! Right? Like it doesn't have to all be at one time.
No.
Um, Step by step is fine. And if those steps take a few months or a few years in between, whatever, celebrate them when they come.
Well, and what now? Your son is 16.
16, yeah, scary.
Yeah, I know, I know. How does he feel about you writing a book about his adventures?
He actually designed the cover for that book, so I'm gonna go with he was okay with it.
I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I'm guessing. So,
yeah. So
well,
that one came out though in 2018. So it goes from being pregnant up till grade 6. So I like to say we're living through what will be part 2, the
mhm.
teenage years. And it's funny, he looks at the cover of the book now and he goes, "Well, I could do better now." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but that came out like 5 years ago." I'm like, "When the next one comes out, sure you can make the cover again, but this is this one from this time period in our life."
Exactly. So, I don't know whether I should ask this question or
Do
not.
it. Do it. Peer pressure.
Excuse me. because he was born a female and he looks at himself as a male. Has he or is he going to have? I imagine he's had some hormone therapy.
No.
No, hasn't had to do any of that.
No. So we talked about it when he first came out, and I said, there's not enough research on it. I don't think that trying to stop you in the middle of your puberty to try and change something is a healthy thing because again, we don't know what's coming out. And now people are coming out who had transitioned as teenagers saying, I have so many aches and pains all over my body because I did this so early on in my life. And so I just said, you know what? As long as you are under 18 and I still have say over your medical. And I mean, we talked about it. I didn't just put my foot down, but he doesn't want to be hurt later on in life either. So he's okay with just being in his body. And then he always talks about, well, maybe I could have a baby one day then. And I'm like, well, maybe you could. Who knows?
So is he thinking about down the road as when he becomes an adult, and if nothing changes, because who knows what the future holds, but would he have surgery?
Potentially. I mean, he has definitely talked about it. And, once he becomes an adult, I don't really have a say anymore. Although we have a good relationship, so he would probably talk to me first. It's just that I'm scared that something bad will happen, right? Especially I read some of these horror stories or see them on TikTok. I love TikTok. And a lot of people are coming out saying, yes, I'm glad that I'm in the body I feel most comfortable in, but my body is in so much pain that was it worth it? And I don't know because I'm not them and I don't know because I'm not him. But I want him to be happy and healthy. So
So again, I have another question for you.
all right.
He's 16.
Yes.
And teenagers go through a lot of hormonal things when they are going through that. He's going through a lot of the female things
Yep.
that you would go through. Does he want to date girls? Does he want to date? Has he thought about dating?
He is currently dating. He has a boyfriend. He has dated girls in the past. So I think he's just trying to figure out who he is. And I think that as a society as a whole, we put too much pressure on labeling
Mhm.
every little thing in our lives. And I try to say that to him. I'm like, I have no problem calling you him, calling you Levin. Like, I don't care. It makes no difference to me. I said, but why do we need to label it all? That's all. And again, it's that me trying to wrap my head around it thing that it makes no difference to me. You're my kid and I love you. I just don't see how we have to label because then when he was dating the girl, I'm like, "Hey, so are you like trying to figure out that label?" And then I come to myself, I don't need to figure out that label because that label doesn't matter.
Right. Right. And so, it doesn't matter whether he is um um and presents as a man or a woman or dates women or dates men. I know lots of people that just date who they date whoever they want to date at the time, and it doesn't matter.
That's pretty much what he does. Yep.
And and that's the thing is I don't as an example, if we were having lunch, and I was to take him out to lunch or whatever, um, it wouldn't matter what he does in the bedroom. I would never even would come up.
No,
Because
exactly.
it's nobody's business, and
Yep.
and just it's but if he's a kind human being who cares about other human beings and is kind, that's all I care about.
Yeah. And that he definitely is. Although he could definitely be a pain in my butt sometimes.
Well, most I haven't met a 16-year-old who's not.
I know.
Every now and again,
I
my
know.
my
Well, me, I was the perfect one.
of course,
My
and me too.
competition wasn't really hard, so
Yeah, I was a perfect one, and my parents thought I was the perfect one. I was the athlete and stuff until the King County Police Department drove up and parked in front of my house.
whoops.
And yeah, I walked up into the house, and the two officers were sitting there talking to my dad saying, "I don't know if this is a regular thing, but we wanted to let you know so that we could nip it in the bud if it is, because Um, are you familiar with the wine, the fortified wine MD 2020? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It was a cheap fortified wine that tasted like grape juice, and then so you could down the whole bottle at one time, and then you lose your mind.
Oh, geez. And you did that.
I did that, and a friend who did that. Well, I did it with two friends, and we all lost our mind. And one of them put his fist through a window at school, and stuff. So I escaped, but my friends, being the consummate friends that they are, ratted me out, and so I got. So the police came to my house the next day and talked to my dad, and oh, what a horrible moment that was.
And then you
But
were
then,
no longer the perfect 16-year-old.
no, yeah, I was not who I pretended to be.
And I think that goes so well with the topic that we've been kind of talking about. We
Indeed.
we pretend to be whomever, but we need to just be us.
And well, the thing is, in when I was growing up, it was not you were not allowed to be who you are.
Mm.
If you were a loud kid, like I was an inquisitive kid, so I
Oh,
always wanted to know why. Why am I going to my room? What did I do? and but they never. It was like, we don't have to talk to you about that. We don't have to explain anything to you. Just go to your room. Um,
right. Yeah.
and 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 that's how they operated way back then. And it's changed a little bit, but I still think that we don't listen to our children, and we don't treat each other with the reverence.
Children should be seen and not heard.
That's another one. I know that that is a caricature nowadays, but in those days that really happened.
Oh, yeah, that I can remember it from not so much my mom, but more my dad was very much like that.
Yes, my dad was
And
too, because he didn't want to deal with it.
right? And I should just read his mind and know what his rules are. So my mom and my dad were not together. So when I was with my dad, there was a different set of rules that I was just supposed to inherently know without him telling me. But they were significantly different than my mom's rules. So I did not inherently know them.
Well, how could you?
Apparently I was supposed to, and when I didn't, I got yelled at.
And yeah, and the sad part, and I've talked about this before on the show, is that the sad part is parents are young when they have children. And so you can't expect them to be. We, when we were children, thought our parents knew everything, at least when we were small children.
Yep.
But it turns out they didn't know crap either. They
Right?
were
No,
just making up as they were going along.
I used to tell my kid when he was little, well, because he'd go, "How do you know all this?" "I know everything." Right? Because questions were easy back then. And then as he got older, maybe like 8, 9, 10, something like that, and he'd ask me a question, be like, "I don't know." I'd be like, "Oh, you don't know everything?" Like, well, that came back to bite me in the butt.
Oh, it sounds like it sounds like you have a wonderful relationship with your son.
Most days.
Well, like I said, 16 is my older cousin had a when his son turned 13. He said, I don't understand it, but my son turned 13 yesterday, and then he went to bed and he rolled over on his side, and his brains fell out of his ear, and and he hasn't been the same since. And I don't know how to put his brains back in his head because they fell out of his head.
They'll go back in when he hits like 20, 22.
Exactly. See, my kids thought I was really stupid, and now they're figuring out that I wasn't as I wasn't as bad as they thought I was, because now it's like, Dad, you are really good with money. Can I borrow some? Because they're not. So anyway,
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, the way our kids look up to us totally changes throughout their lives, and then as an adult, if we're lucky as an adult, then we have a different kind of relationship altogether.
yeah, and I had that with my dad when I was growing up. I was an athlete, so he liked to watch me play ball. Other than that, he didn't want to hear from me. Um, And then when I grew up and had my own kids and was married and all that, he became quite a good guy, and we became friends. But
That's
when we were kids, when I was a kid, no, hell no, he wanted nothing to do with us.
Yeah, and sometimes it's how it is, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that eventually it got better.
Yeah. And well, it's all part of life. I was talking with somebody about that today, and it's like when you look at the sum total of everything that you've gone through and who you are and the experiences you've had, that you will continue to have all the way until the very day that your body expires. You're going to continue to learn different things and different aspects of life, and you're going to get smarter the whole time, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Um, some people don't, but that's because they choose not to. So you have written a lot of books. Is it because something will happen and then you'll say, I need to write a book about that? Is that your therapy?
Pretty much, yep. Yep, so, all of the nonfiction, so I've got 4 nonfictions that have come out over the years. Um, it's always been something has happened or triggered me and went, "I gotta share this. Other people need to know. I'm sure other people feel this way." And then in between those, because they're such heavy topics, that's when I write my kids' books or the social stories, kinda lighten the mood.
Yeah. Now, how much time do you take to write a story?
It
Are
depends
you
on the
quick?
story. It depends on the book. So the last one that just came out, Goodbye Too Soon, that was about a year and a half, in the making. But other ones, especially like a kid's book, it doesn't take long to write. It's actually the pictures that take long.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I got to tell you, you have had in your life, you've had quite an adventure, and some of it has been grand, some of it has been not very good, and including the death of your brother. And stuff, but you have made it through. Why do you think that you've made it through?
I'm really stubborn. Um, there's been different reasons, I think, over the years. Um, I've used writing as a major coping strategy. And now I use, going on people's shows and my own podcast. That's kind of very therapeutic as well because I meet all these other people that have either been in the same boat as me or I can relate to on some kind of level. So I'm feeling more accepted by doing that. It was hard to kind of find my people um growing up, the people who accepted me for me, and I felt like I constantly had to pretend to be somebody else, so that was really difficult. And as a teenager, I think that the youth group at my church really was kind of my saving grace. It was the only place that I actually felt like I could be just me and I didn't have to wear a mask the whole time. So if it wasn't for that and then yeah, slowly kind of coming into my own and being like, why am I caring what other people think? That was a really big point. And then finally go just being like, I'm gonna be me, I'm gonna have bad days, but there's gonna be more good days and medication.
Oh, by the way, if you want to go find out more about Randy-Lee, go to rbwriting.ca because she's in Canada. And that's rbwriting.ca. You can find out all about her. And by the thing that we talked about last time, we haven't even touched on yet, but I got to touch on it just for a little bit, is your kickboxing career, which also can be very therapeutic.
Yes, it can be. Kicking people is great fun.
Especially kicking him in the face.
I think I've said that before.
I think you have too. Well, that's that. I'm glad that you had that experience. Now, as you're getting a little older and you're accumulating all these experiences, are you thankful for them?
Yes. At the time that I experienced them, no.
No.
But now that I am in a really good place, um, I can look back and I can go, "Okay, that really sucked, but at least I couldn't use it for good now, and hopefully I can help other people not have those really crappy times as well, or be able to at least get through them."
and that really, you can't save people from having crappy times. It's like I had a period of my life which was a bad country music song period. But my dad died, my dog died, my wife left, and all that. Yeah. Anyway, um, but it's how you come out of it the other side, and if you can help people by your story so that they can understand that there's nothing in life that hasn't happened to somebody somewhere sometime that is exactly what happened to you, and they made it through, and you can too. I think
Yeah.
that's a wonderful gift to give people.
And that is a really easy gift for me to give. It's very inexpensive.
I don't know that I'd say that, because you went through, in order to have the experience, you got to go through the experience, and
It's
sometimes that's not inexpensive.
it's true, and the therapy afterwards is not.
And now I think all of us deserve to have therapy. We should at one point or another.
I always say that too, and I think that a lot of people think, "Oh, therapy, that's because you have issues." No, it's so that you don't have the issues, right? Like, had I went into therapy way earlier in life, I wouldn't have had to go through the things I did because I would have learned those coping strategies way back then. And so we don't have to wait until a big tragedy comes to our lives. I know a few people that they're like, I wasn't diagnosed with anything, but every so often I just go talk to my therapist every so often just to kind of get it off my chest and move on.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to talk to somebody that's got a different idea about you than your family and friends do. Um,
Yes.
somebody that is really can like look at you and say, when you say something, and then they say to you, "No, Randy-Lee, that's not what you mean."
I was told that my whole stinking life growing up.
Yeah. And so everything, and so they can, and then perhaps they can tell you, let's go deeper into that. I bet you've heard that before too.
Yes, therapists are great for that. Let's talk about this more. Or my all-time favorite from my therapist is, but what if?
Oh,
And
that
let's
opens up
reframe it because what if? She really likes to call me out.
that
Let's do
opens
that.
up a whole can of worms.
It does.
What if?
Mhm.
But it's great. So I want you to go to the website. It's rbwriting.ca. There's a book page, and you can go look at all of her books and buy them from her. They can buy it from your webpage, can't they?
Right now the webpage is gonna take them back to Amazon. I am in the
Okay. Well, then
process.
that's
Yes, I'm in the process of getting my books on there so you can order signed copies. I have to work on the shipping part of things, which is a little bit more complicated. But Amazon will ship anywhere in the world and it's not complicated, so you can still go buy it there.
holy mackerel. Let's see.
Oh, are
Do
you
you?
counting?
I am. Do you know? Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh, Positive Talk Radio. How about that right there? 10, 12, 14. You've been on 16 podcasts since January 9th.
Wow. And then if you look back into the 2022, 2021 archives, there's a lot more.
Yes. Well, you're very good at what you do, and you're great to talk to and stuff. And do you find that being on so many podcasts is either therapeutic for you or helps your book sales?
It's definitely therapeutic. It helps the book sales for sure. I love meeting all of these different people, and you're one of my favorite hosts, I have to say, which is why I keep coming back.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you. And I was going to go fishing for that compliment, by the way, if you hadn't said it out front.
Oh, well, there you go. You don't have to go fishing. It's right there. And it's just so much fun. When I was little, I was gonna be a famous actor. And so I guess this works.
Well, you ain't done yet. You're
That's
you're
right.
you're a very good looking woman, and you've got lots of spunk, lots of energy to you. You see, at this point in my life, I was talking to a director the other day, and I said, "Do you have any like um, parts for an old guy who looks like Wilford Brimley?" Um, and he said, if I runs up to something, I'll let you know. But you could still do all kinds of star stuff. Matter of fact, what we should do is we should put together a dual podcast where we can get together and talk to interesting people. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be so much fun. We have such good chemistry.
We really do. We really do. And you're so smart, and you are so loving and understanding, and even the things that have happened in your life. Um, you really you're a cool dudette. That's all I can say.
Thanks.
Um, what, do you have another book in the works?
I definitely have a couple of books in the works. So right now I'm co-authoring a book with, I met him in my business group. He's a videographer, and we are writing about our mental health journeys, and how they relate back to the Bible for what we know. Because again, neither of us are pastors or anything, but we are both of the Christian faith. So we're writing from our perspective and how it has helped us. As well, I am almost finished the Crime Stoppers book. I have a few more edits for Crime Stoppers of Niagara, the history of that. And I have 2 kids' books in the works. See, there's always so much. So, you
When
look
do
like
you
you have
have
a question.
time for all this?
Um, I don't know. I just do. Um, well, those 2 books have been in the works for probably about 2 years each, because there is so much research going into them and kind of back and forth with other people, which takes a lot longer than when I'm just writing it myself.
Hmm.
But yeah, so the 2 kids' books, the one has been written for a year, and I'm waiting for my kid to do the pictures because he is the artist for Woofy. This will be the second Woofy book, and soon as I think he's got like 5 pictures left, something like that. So hopefully it comes. The more I remind him, the longer it takes.
He's 16.
Yeah, exactly. But I pay him. I don't even get a discount.
So is he what would you call him, an artist or
Definitely.
a cartoonist, or what would?
I would say an artist. I actually have he's done 2 of my tattoos, like hasn't done the tattoo, but did the drawing of the tattoos for 2 of mine, one of my husband's as well. And yeah, a bunch of the pictures in my books, and he does calendars every year. He's got like this little following. He sells his calendars every year, and yeah, it's frustrating waiting for him to get things done.
Now, does he have a website?
Um, we are revamping it. So, he did have one. We're revamping it. So right now, if you go on Facebook, would probably be the best way to do it. Go to A Piece of Karma. That is his art stuff. We have not posted in a while. It's been a little hectic trying to get through the rest of the school year or whatever, but hopefully we'll get back to doing that a little bit more. Because it's going to be coming to calendar time again soon.
Yes, it will. And well, that's really good that he's out there and he's artistic and he's doing some great stuff. So you obviously are a proud mama.
I am. And he's got his beginner's driver's license, which is scary and a very proud mama moment.
Ah,
Right?
just
But it's fine. You're in the States. You won't run into him driving on the road.
no pun intended. But the thing is though, make sure that he doesn't get into. Of course, you've had that discussion with him. Don't get into a car with somebody who's been drinking. Don't take a bunch of your kids or your friends in your car and all that kind of stuff. So, are you going to give him a car?
If he eventually gets his full license, and the deal is he has to pay half of his insurance because that is the deal with the other one. But as long as they can do that and they can put their own gas in the car, it works out well. My husband's a mechanic too, so they
Oh,
don't have to worry about repairs.
Yep, that's handy.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really good, but yeah, hopefully, and I mean, even if he doesn't get his own car, my husband and I, we each have a car, so amongst the three of us, we can share. My husband and I, we both work really close to the house, so
Oh, very good, very good. So it sounds like you're in a really good space right now, and
I am.
I really am. I'm even though we've never met.
Only
Would
in
it be?
person. We've met lots of times.
I know, but would it be inappropriate for me to say I'm proud of you?
No, it makes me feel good.
Okay, good. Then I'm proud of you,
Thanks.
and so's your brother.
Oh, now I might cry. Everybody go back and watch the last time I was on the show, and then you'll understand why.
Well, it's important to know that. It's important for other people to know that even though somebody has passed on, that they're still involved in your life. I was talking to a guy an hour and a half ago, and he said he lost his wife, who was 35 at the time,
Oh my goodness.
and she had breast cancer, and she had a 9-year battle, and
Oh
she
my
looks.
goodness.
That's a hell of a battle to fight, and unfortunately, she lost it.
Oh,
And so I said to him, because he's an energy worker, and he's building a um, um, a retreat in Colombia
oh,
for folks with addiction issues and that kind of things. And he likes to work with people who don't have a lot of money. And I said to him, your wife is very proud of you. And he says, yeah, I know, because right after she passed away, she came into the bedroom um like a week or so later, and she said, guess what, they're going to let me be your guide for the rest of your life.
oh my goodness.
And so she's involved in his life with him every day, just like your brother is with you.
Aw.
And it's important to know that, and it's important to live your life to the fullest every day, so that you can so that they're proud of you regardless, but you want to be as proud of yourself as you can. So
Mhm.
that's my little sermon from the old guy.
Actually, my niece, one of my brother's kids, just turned 16 this past weekend. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
they grow so fast.
they really do. I'm like, but she was like little.
And now she's 16 and has a bunch of boys chasing her.
Oh, no, I don't want to hear that.
I know. Well, never mind. By the way, Randi-Lee Bowslaugh has been our guest, and I could talk to you for hours, but I got to keep it to because
I
I
know.
I just do. Go to rbwriting.ca and find out all the information about her and her books and her life, which is quite incredible. And she's a great gal, and you will come back on the show. I know you
Oh, for
will.
sure.
You're
Definitely.
going to have to. But before we go, I want to give you the opportunity to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
So I always like to end my show with my little catchphrase here. So the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.
Say that again.
The only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.
And one more time.
The only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.
And that is a really big key for us to get past the stigma that has been around mental health for far too long.
Yeah, and that's why I always say it.
Yes, indeed. Well, you know what my catchphrase is at the end?
But
Be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. So be kind to everyone. If somebody appears to have an issue, be kind to them, and whatever the issue is, and understand that we're all one, and we're all together. And I'll get off my soapbox now. But thank you, Randi-Lee, for being here.
thanks for having me again.
again and again and again. 'Cause we've got to do this again. So thank you so much. If you'll wait right there, my dear, I will be right back. Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we got.